My next guest heads up an organization called Southcoast Young Marines. Christian Gomes is his name. He's the unit commander for this organization. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, for those who don't know, what is the Young Marines? Where are they based?
Well, the Young Marines program, it's actually a national program. We happen to be based out of Fort Tabor Community Center in the south end of New Bedford. The program was actually started in 1958 by one unit in Connecticut, and it was former Marines who said, you know what, we want to try to help out our community with the youth, mainly with drug demand reduction. The program has grown to be about over 300 units, 10,000 kids throughout the country, including District of Columbia and some of our U.S. territories. Even Japan and Guam have units there. Our plan or our vision actually is teaching kids leadership, discipline, and living a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. And that's what we promote for all our children, kids from the ages of 8 years old through completion of high school.
How many people are involved in New Bedford?
In New Bedford? Well, we have just shy of 30 kids in the program, and we have, make sure I have the correct count, I believe 8 adult volunteers. All the adult volunteers are, for the most part, are prior service. Myself, I'm a former Marine. I have a staff sergeant who's in the Army Reserve. I currently have 2 active duty. One is Army, one's Air Force. I have former Air Force personnel as well that are now working civilian jobs like myself. I'm a police officer, but they volunteer their time. The program for the adults, it's completely voluntary. We get no compensation. We just kind of use what we've learned as adults and service members and try to teach these kids just to live a better life.
So how can people get involved? I'm going to ask you this question one more time in the show, but how can people get involved?
Well, they can get involved. Like I said, if they want to assist us in the program, they can donate to the program. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So basically, everything we do, we kind of get the kids out in encampments and different activities they can do. We try to do that through donations. But if someone wants to get involved, they want to get their kid involved, they can either come to our website, southcoastym.com, or they can go to the national website, youngmarines.com.
So where are the young people who you're working with, where do they come from?
They come from all over, generally from the Greater New Bedford area. We have kids from New Bedford, Acushnet, Freetown, Dartmouth. I have one child as far away as Middleborough who's joined our program. He just likes it there, and he's been coming back every year.
Great. So it's not just a South End group, although you're located in the South End.
Yes, it's actually, like I said, we cover pretty much the Greater New Bedford area. There are other units around the state, actually around the country. There's some in Rhode Island, towards Fall River, towards the Cape. We have others up in Boston. Those are the units that are closer to us. But again, there are units everywhere.
When a young person joins, what happens next? He says, okay, I want to join. He has his parents' permission and all of that. What happens next?
Well, what we start them out with is what we call recruit training. We don't like to call it boot camp anymore because, unfortunately, everyone thinks a boot camp for a child has a bad connotation. So it's actually recruit training. What we're training them to do is basically learn that a healthier lifestyle. In other words, we start them with doing physical fitness, and we try to get them to do exercise every day, at least 1 hour. And when they go to drill, they do exercise for about an hour every Tuesday. They start with exercise, and then from there we'll have classroom time where we'll actually teach them things like Marine Corps jargon, Marine Corps history, or it'll be things like practical things like knot tying, axe and bow handling, how to cut wood, how to do things that you usually don't do on a regular basis. Then we'll have the third portion of the drill would be close order drill, and that's where we are bread and butter, if you will, for discipline. Basically, we're teaching them how to hear a command and be able to react to that command without a problem. We do bring their stress level up a little bit, and the whole purpose of that is they get a little stress and they learn how to deal with that stress with myself or one of the other officers giving them commands, left face, right face, so on and so forth. So when they actually get into a real situation that is stressful, they'll know how to keep themselves calm and be able to think through the problem, saying, I can figure this out. This is just like Officer Gomes sitting there telling me, hey, left face, right face, about face, turn around, do this, and they can sit there saying it's the same thing. I keep myself calm, and I can figure this problem out without having to get all riled or freaky,
I can hear it now. There might be some people out listening and saying, Is this a recruiting thing for the Marines? You have probably answered that question.
Oh, yes, I have. I will tell you this. A lot of people do ask that question. Are we a recruiting tool for the United States Marine Corps? Absolutely not. The Marine Corps lets the Young Marines program use the title Marine and use the rank insignia and the uniforms. We are the premier drug demand reduction program for the United States Marine Corps. But when kids finish the program, when they retire, or when they graduate high school, at that time there, what I can tell you, myself, all the other adult leaders in our program and these other programs, we stress those kids to go to college. If they say, I want to go in the Marine Corps, I want to go in the Army, we says, yeah, good idea. Go to college first. And then sometimes they say, no, I want to go into the service. Then we'll say, okay, we're happy that you want to serve your country, but we want you to get that education first. We try to guide them towards college first, and then if they still want to serve, feel free to serve, and we'll be happy to help them out in any way we can.
You've mentioned a couple of times the phrase drug reduction. New Bedford, sadly, well, everywhere really, but New Bedford sadly has a serious drug problem. I'm sure some of these young people from New Bedford are living around it in their neighborhoods, in their schools, perhaps even in their homes. What's the plan? How do you approach that kind of situation?
Well, we understand that, like I said, aside from you seeing your I don't want to say normal drugs, but seeing things like marijuana, opiates, things like that these kids see, they also see things like prescription drugs that are handed out. I shouldn't say handed out, but that are prescribed to their parents. And what we try to teach these kids is the dangers of the drugs, what those drugs can do to them at their age. Because like I said, we have kids 8 years old all the way through high school, through seniors in high school. So what we do is we have them learn what the dangers of the drugs are. Then the other things we do is we teach them different ways to say no. I mean, the easiest way to say no, thank you. But a lot of times kids in today's society, they feel like they may be pressured into it. If you don't try this, you're not cool or what have you. And we give them different avenues to outthink that party trying to give them the drugs or sell them the drugs. Just how to outthink them, how to say, I can't do it because, I'm on the track team, or I'm part of sports and it's going to affect my performance. It's going to make me slower, so I'm not going to be able to run as fast. I'm not going to be able to catch the ball as well. We try to give them different ways to say no and still, if you want to, the best way to put it, save face. And we also teach them like how dangerous these drugs can be, especially for children their age. The way we see it is if we can teach them now not to take those drugs, not to try those drugs, then we are stopping a problem in the future where they won't have to run into me as a police officer dealing with them being caught up in all that.
Do young people stay with this through their 18th birthday generally? What's your retention rate?
Our retention rate, like I said, the young ones, they stay for quite some time. I do notice that when they get towards their teen years, for the most part, I will say a lot of them do stay with the program. They'll continue throughout their high school careers. I know if they do stay for a certain amount of time, just like the ROTC program, if they do decide to go into the service, they may get a bump in pay if they do decide to enlist. Again, but we don't promote that. We kind of want them to promote that drug demand reduction, staying away from drugs.
We want to remind our listeners you're listening to Townsquare Sunday. My name is Jim Phillips. My guest is Christian Gomes, who's the unit commander, really, of Southcoast Marines, which is based in the South End at Fort Tabor. Why should parents take an interest in this organization, Christian? What's in it for them?
Well, like I said, it's your kids learn a little more discipline being in the program. They get to learn a chain of command, a structure, and like I said, as much as people will say, "Oh, kids are kind of out there and they're doing whatever they want," I found that children do crave structure, and we give them that structure to follow. And they have different things they do have to learn. An obligation, which is an obligation that they have, that they're giving not only to their parents or themselves, but I'll just recite it for you really quickly here. It's from this day forward. I sincerely promise to set an example for all other youth to follow, and I shall never do anything that will bring disgrace or dishonor upon my God, my country, its flag, my parents, myself, or the young Marines. These I will honor and trust in a manner that will reflect credit upon them and myself. Semper Fidelis. this is one of the things that we have them learn and memorize. As a matter of fact, at the end of every drill, we have the kids do that obligation. And what we do for the kids, I always tell them, if they're about to do something, recite that obligation to themselves in their head. And I think if it's going to violate that obligation, don't do it, as kind of like a litmus test. Like, hey, should I, throw this rock at that car? I know it's a silly example, but yeah, it's going to violate that obligation. Not so silly.
Right.
So, but like I said, I have found, and I've had parents tell me that they found that their kids, even the little ones that are around 8, 9 years old, they have that structure, they have that confidence where they believe that, yes, I can do this. I've gone through recruit training, which was kind of tough. I had to do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and run. But you know what? I can do it. I have that confidence. The kids have that confidence, building up inside themselves. They also have that discipline where they say, you know what? I can do this. I can, when I'm giving a responsibility, I can take responsibility and take charge and do that and be a young leader.
It seems like a kind of a heavy burden to put on a kid. Some of those, I shall never dishonor my school, my family, my church, my flag, Young Marines. That's
Well, like I said, it's part of giving them that structure.
Yeah.
And like I said, I know that kids are going to make mistakes. They always do. And like I said, it's one of those things we tell you, you're trying to live up to that obligation. And like I said, we understand that every once in a while you may slip. And it doesn't mean that if you slipped and you didn't live up to that obligation for that one time, it doesn't mean everything's over for you. It means now that was kind of tough. Now I have to make up for that and try to still keep striving for that I don't want to say perfection, but that point of being, yes, I'm going to be that good person, that good young Marine, that good American, and make things well again.
Who are the adult volunteers in your program? You mentioned a bit of a biography about them, but who are they generally?
They're from our community. I have myself. I'm a police officer here in the city. Actually, my adjutant, who is basically, she does all of the data entry. She makes sure that I'm pretty much on time for everything. She makes sure that all the paperwork is completed for a thing. That's actually my wife. She's a professor over at UMass Dartmouth. I have my executive officer. He is a security forces specialist over the power plant. I have a training officer who's in the Air Force Reserves. I have another training officer who's in the Army National Guard. I have a female training officer who works over at the Youth Detention Center in Brockton. So they come from all kinds of different locations, different jobs, different backgrounds. A lot of them have prior service. Some are not. But what they all have in common is they really want to help these children, just become better people.
How did you get involved?
Believe it or not, like I said, as you can see, my daughter is too small. I was a young Marine back in 1983, I believe it was. There was a young Marine unit here in the South End as well, at the old Fort Rodman base that was there. I joined the Young Marine program then when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And then after that, I want to say in 2009, I was working. I went to the National Night Out, and I ran into the Southcoast unit. They were there actually taking part in the National Night Out, and I was just asked by another former Marine. My predecessor said, "Hey, would you like to help out?" And I was like, "Sure." I just started helping out a little bit, and before you know it,
Unit Commander.
Unit Commander.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
What types of projects are the Young Marines involved in besides their training nights?
Besides our training nights, like I said, we do things like we'll do cleanup. We'll actually take part in the cleanups in the city. Sometimes the Young Marines, like I said, a lot of times it's not necessarily the adult leaders setting up the programs for the kids. It's a lot of times we encourage the kids, like, we want you to come up with community service ideas. Sometimes they'll do things like food drives. We'll actually do like collect cans or clothing in the winter. We will partner up with other organizations, like recently the Polar Plunge for the Massachusetts Special Olympics. We actually assisted them with their Polar Plunge here in New Bedford, and we're happy to help with any community service in the community that we can help.
Where do people go to request your help at events?
They can actually they can go to our website, southcoastym.com, or they can send an email to info@southcoastym.com.
Okay. And pretty much the same track if you want to sign up, join, volunteer, go to the website.
Yes.
And sign up. All right. When will we see the Young Marines again? What's coming up next on the calendar?
Coming up next on the calendar, we'll be at the Freetown fireworks, and then the Freetown parade on the 4th. We'll be at the Cape Verdean Day parade as well.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else is coming up. I had a whole list and I don't have it.
Well, that's two. That's okay. 2 events coming up that you can see the Young Marines in action. My guest has been Christian Gomes of Southcoast Young Marines. Chris, good luck with this organization.
Thank you.
Sounds like you, and you're really here, I think, to say, hey, we're here. We'd love to get some new members. We always want new blood. Want to grow a little bit. I mean, I think that's.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, we wish you luck with that, Chris.
Thank you very much.